All right. Errol Spence Jr. gets bad news from one of the biggest names in boxing, one of the biggest name trainers in boxing, and says that he made a bad decision and he needs to worry about what is coming back at him because of it. Let's talk about what Virgil Hill had to say about Errol Spence Jr. and why in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. In this conversation, we're going to talk about some bad juju, some bad karma, and somebody putting that out there on former 3-belt holding champion Errol Spence Jr. because he's being accused of being cheap. But before we get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you. And thank you to everybody that supports in the super thanks. You guys are consistent and support so much. And we got some new people that have come by and joined the super thanks crew. So thank you very much. But let's get into this with some haste today. Because I think this is a real disservice to Errol Spence Jr. And because something was said by Virgil Hunter that I thought was a little bit out of place. And it was commenting on Errol Spence Jr. having some bad karma because of what's going on with him and his trainer. Now, if you don't know what happened, let me fill you in. Errol Spence Jr. was trained by Derrick James pretty much, well, not pretty much, his entire professional career. And he was trained by Derrick James as an amateur. Errol Spence Jr. entered into a verbal agreement with Derrick James and paid Derrick James 10% of his bout agreement every time during the course of their career. All he's got 29 fights, 28 fights, 29 fights. All 29. Paid him the same percentage of his purse, of his bout agreement, not the total revenue of the fight, of his bout agreement, his entire career. Obviously, as he moved along in his career, he started making more money. But when you're working on a percentage, the amount that you're getting paid goes up as well. Right now, unfortunately for Derrick James, and the percentage of money that he was getting paid, Errol started being very inactive, not fighting for 2 solid years, 13 months, 15 months, won't take tune-ups. And, you know, that 10% for a guy of his caliber is about probably half of what it should be, not because of what Errol Spence Jr. The agreement that Errol Spence had with him, but because of the fact that Errol has been so inactive, right? Where say if the man's making, gets a $5 million, or a $3 million purse bout, $3 million, that's $600,000 for Derrick James. If he does 2 fights in a year, that's $600,000 and not $300,000. So, inactivity definitely hurt the payments of Derrick James. However, what you do is you work with somebody for all that time getting paid in that manner off those numbers. You can't then say at the end of your career, when the biggest fight happens, no, I don't want to get paid $300,000, or I don't want to get paid. I don't want to get $350,000, which is I think his guaranteed, his bout agreement was 2.5 million. I don't want to get 250,000 plus 100,000 bonus. I think that's unfair because you wind up making so much more in the fight. Well, he made a lot more money in the fight when he fought on pay-per-views the other times against Usyk, against Sean Porter, against Mikey Garcia. Course and conduct of their relationship that's what Errol Spence Jr. was supposed to pay him, because that's what they agreed and that's how they've been working together. Now, that's the backup of it. But Derrick James is saying, no, you're supposed to give me 10% of everything that you make, which would be something that they referred to in the response for Errol Spence as total revenue for the fight. So Derrick James is saying, no, you owe me an extra $2.1 million because I was told that you made $25 million in the fight. So you owe me $2.5 million of the $25 million. Now, whether or not Errol Spence Jr. should have gave him a bigger bonus, whether or not Errol Spence Jr. Should have, that's not, or whether or not, well, actually, it's just not, because that's not the agreement they had, and that's not the standard agreement that boxers have with trainers. That's why trainers have entire stables of fighters, because they're not just training one guy and getting the pay-per-view money off of one guy. But anyway, when Virgil Hunter says, look, that's going to be bad karma on Errol Spence Jr., because he says, look, man, if you're not paying and treating your trainers the way that you're supposed to, that will be bad karma on you, which, most people understand what that means. Karma is that if what you put out, you will receive. What you put out, you'll receive. So if you mistreat somebody, then you can expect to be for some type of misfortune to fall upon you, right? It's kind of like the reverse of, the biblical phrase, cast your bread upon the water and it will return manyfold, right? Well, cast your negativity out on the water and it will return to you manyfold. The problem that I have with it in this particular application is that Errol Spence Jr. paid the man what the going rate was and what they agreed to. Just because somebody asks you to pay you more, doesn't mean that you have to, and it doesn't make you a bad person. If you say, hold on, man, this isn't what we agreed to. That's if you're at a store and you're like, hey, man, if you got to raise your price. And Derrick James, if Derrick James felt that way, Derrick James could have said before the fight with Terrence Crawford, hey, I see how I'm getting paid. I don't like how I'm getting paid. Hey, before I trained you for this fight, because we're on a fight by fight agreement, I need 10% of the total fight revenue, the whole thing. And then that would give Errol Spence Jr. an opportunity to say yes or say no. Now, naysayers are going to come out to what I say and say, hey, well, it was on an email that he said, oh, okay, yeah, I'll live up to it. Okay, man, look, man. Employers do that shit all the time. Excuse my cussing. They do that all the time. That is what you called a gratuity, like a tip. Like, okay, yeah, that's what we agreed to. Yeah, I kind of think maybe you deserved a little more. Okay, here, how much did you say? You're talking about 2.1 million? Okay, I'll get back with you. What's your bank account when I send it? Okay. And then he calls Al Heyman, and Al Heyman says, hold on, $350,000 is what he deserves. That's very gracious. A trainer's fee is 10% of the bout agreement. And if you want to pay him a bonus, you pay him a bonus. Since the bout agreement was $2.5 million, you owe him $250,000, and then you tipped him another $100,000. Instead of getting tipped another $100,000, he wants $100,000. He wants to be tipped another $2.2 million. No, you don't have to do that. And Errol says, hey, man, I don't think I want to tip you. I don't want to tip you $2.2 million off of $250,000, off of me owing you $250,000. But to say that something's going to be coming bad back to somebody because of this particular instance, I think is unfair. Now, if there was generally Errol Spence Jr. being cheap with people, now that could be a different matter, because that's not the first time that I've heard that Errol Spence Jr. was cheap. Errol didn't like paying dietitians. Errol doesn't really Errol didn't really like paying physical, strength and conditioning coaches because he's like, hey, man, I'll do it myself because my understanding was because he's cheap and didn't really want to pay other people to do these things. Now, there could be some ramifications to that people that are really high caliber won't want to work with you because they are going to feel like, hold on, man, this guy he's cheap. And nobody really likes dealing with people that are cheap. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, though, if you sign up and agree to what you agree to, you agreed to what you agreed to. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.